Okay, let's do some quick fire questions, Corey.
All right.
I want to see because these always lead into interesting discussions too. So, if you with a gun to your head and it's your sort of dying thing, and you can only pick one, which Tom Petty album do you go with?
Okay. I know that I imagine the majority of people on your show, when they're asked this question, they all pick Wildflowers because that's a great one to pick, right? I imagine Damn the
You'd be
Torpedoes.
surprised.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm going Full Moon Fever because that's the album that really got me hardcore into Tom Petty. It has my favorite Tom Petty song of all time on it. Top to bottom, I think it's a perfect album. Chris Jericho on his show said a perfect album is like A to A minus. So even when you got like an A minus, like Zombie Zoo, it's still better than the majority of whatever anyone else is putting out in '89. So I'm throwing a vote to Full Moon Fever. I love that album, top to bottom. It's fantastic. You get so many great, even the deeper cuts off that album are some of my all-time favorite deeper, like the Apartment song. I love the Apartment song, like stuff like
Facing
that.
the Crowd. Again, I always forget about it, Facing the Crowd, and then when it comes on, I'm like, this again, greatest hits. This would be anyone else's. This would have been a release. It would have been a single, and it would have been on greatest hits because it's that strong. But
there's so many great songs on that album.
Sorry, with picking favorite albums, no, it's really different. Like people don't all go for this because I kind of thought the same thing too. There's a few of these questions I thought, well, I'm pretty sure I know what everyone's going to say. I don't know what everyone's going to say. Not everyone does pick Wildflowers. We had someone, I think Jake Thistle picked the live anthology. He found a hacker in my question because he's like, yeah, that's 6 records, so I think I'll take that one. Damn it!
Oh, see,
cheated.
I should have picked Greatest Hits then, right? Because it has all the Grace on them. But no, I got to be true. And Wildflowers is a great choice. Damn the Torpedoes is a great choice.
Yeah.
I even really like Long After Dark. I know Tom was the biggest fan of it, but top to bottom, there's some banging tunes on that one.
Yeah, man, that's the season I'm in right now. And going back and listening to those songs, again, it's because I always think, and I've talked about this lots, but I think about Damn the Torpedoes, Hard Promises, Long After Dark. That's your Jimmy Iovine trilogy. And yes, he was one of the producers on Southern Accents, but that was a whole different weird sort of setup where he'd kind of left and then they asked him back because they wanted his help to finish things up. But as 3 albums, as a trilogy of albums, it's absolutely phenomenal because they sort of sound consistent, but you can hear growth in the songwriting, and then you get sort of like You Got Lucky on Long After Dark would never have appeared on Damn the Torpedoes because Tom just wouldn't have written a song like that, and they wouldn't have been able to convince Ben Mont to play the synths on it anyway if he had done, right? And so I think in terms of those trilogies of albums, I think of if it's Van Halen 1, 2, and Women and Children. That's a brilliant trilogy of albums because again you've got all these songs from a band and most of the songs were written before any of the albums came out, right? It's my understanding of it. So you've got a real consistency and a sort of a fluency to those 3 albums. Or then you get to 51, 50, or 8812 for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. You get those 3s. I always see 3s when I always look for those when I'm thinking about music and catalogs. It's Sheer Heart Attack, Night at the Opera Day at the Race is the same thing. You've got this weird little 3 thing. So I always like looking for those. And for me, Long After Dark is the perfect capstone to that Iovine trilogy.
Doesn't have a lot of it's got You Got Lucky on there. It doesn't have like any of the huge hits, but top to bottom, spin that like I just spun it on vinyl here the other day. Top to bottom, it's a banging record. I don't think it gets enough credit.
Yeah, and Change of Heart's on there, which again that one could have been on Greatest Hits.
100%, totally agree with you. All
right, so here's your second quick fire question. And again, I always tell people the quick fire questions, but the answers are never quick, and that's fine. But so. I'm guessing that I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to answer. So Mudcrutch or Traveling Wilburys?
Oh, this was an easy one for me. I didn't really get huge into the Mudcrutch thing. I love the Traveling Wilburys. Traveling Wilburys Volume 1 is another perfect album for me. End of the Line, one of my all-time favorite songs. It just lyrically it speaks to you, like even if the sun don't shine, it's going to be all right. Stuff like that. I was on a podcast with a friend of mine named Ken Knapsack, and we're just talking about Tweeter and the Monkey Man.
Yeah.
How brilliant is Tweeter and the Monkey Man? And I want that to be a movie. Like get Steve Buscemi, get Vin Diesel, and let's do Tweeter and the Monkey Man. Yeah. Like it's such a great, and there's a Canadian band called the Headstones that actually did a very hard rocking version of Tweeter and the Monkey Man that's fantastic. But Handle with Care, Last Night, Margarita, so many great songs on Traveling Wilburys Volume 1. That would be my choice, hands down.
And you just get such a sense of fun from that record. And End of the Line again, it's got this big, it's uplifting, it's upbeat, super simple. And actually, when you listen to that as a drummer, Jimmy Keltner doesn't play a cymbal once on that entire song. All
Isn't
he's
that
playing is
crazy?
that straight backbeat, and it
Yeah.
sounds great. It's exactly what the song needs. Just beautifully put together.
Then you listen to a song like Wilbury Twist, and it's all simple, like just constant with the crash,
Yes.
right? That's crazy.
And well, man, we got to, and you know, as Canadians, we got to shout out John Candy for the video to that song, right?
Oh yes,
Doing the Wilbur was
100%.
just the most fun you can have. The most fun you can have with your clothes on. So,
R.I.P. John Candy. We just
yeah,
passed his anniversary of his passing here not that long ago, and
yeah,
just a legend gone way too soon.
never made a bad. Well, I wouldn't say never made a bad movie. He was never bad in a movie. Is how I would
There
put
you
it.
go. Yep. Well said. Well said.
Okay, if you could join the Heartbreakers on stage for one song, what song would you pick, and what instrument would you play and or sing?
Well, I'd be playing drums, and I think I'd be playing American Girl because I love that pattern.
Oh,
It's
nice.
really hard. I can't do it as of yet, but I'm practicing. I'm
Yeah.
trying. Like, and I love me some Stan Lynch on the drums. So if I could get on stage with them, if I had to sing a song, it'd probably be Walls. I think that's the only one I could probably pull off.
Okay.
But if I was playing an instrument, I'd hop behind the kit and I would attempt American Girl.
But it's great too because it's the Bo Diddley beat. That's exactly what it is. But it's on the kick snare, which is unusual. And the cool thing about that song too is I didn't know until after, way after, and probably doing the research for this podcast was that they mic'd the way that kit was mic'd. It was either one or two basically overheads. No mic on the kick, no mic on it was just one mic, and they just did it basically straight. So which is why the drums do sound different. They don't sound as big as Stan Lynch's drums often do, certainly not in the Irvine era, but they sound, they're unique. It's a unique drum sound, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. How they recorded drums throughout the Heartbreakers' career is kind of legendary. Like they got a lot of interesting recording techniques out of those drums. It's great.
Who would be your dream opening act at a Tom Petty concert?
Well, you know what? I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to say a reunited Fleetwood Mac, because not only would we get Fleetwood Mac with Lindsey Buckingham and the whole 9 yards, but then Stevie Nicks can go play Insider, Stop Dragging My Heart Around, maybe even do I Need to Know. Like when she did I Need to Know in the Gainesville concert, that was phenomenal. Singing back up and Learning to Fly. So I'm going to cheat and pick Fleetwood Mac just because then we get some Stevie Nicks, the unofficial member of the Heartbreakers.
Yeah, the only girl in the band, right? So
yeah.
Did you see Fleetwood Mac when they came through either of the last two times through to Saskatoon?
No, I've never seen Fleetwood Mac. I was trying to get there when they came through last time because they had Neil Finn and Mike Campbell playing with them.
Yeah.
That'd be cool to see Fleetwood Mac doing Running Down a Dream and Don't Dream It's Over from Crowded House. But Saskatoon is still a 4-hour drive. And, the stars have to kind of align for me to make it up there for a show. So unfortunately, I didn't quite make it. But who knows? Maybe they'll go out again with those two and I'll get another chance.
I'm pretty sure they will. I mean, because Fleetwood Mac are not done. They'll do the greatest hits. I don't think they'll record another album ever, but I can see another 2-3 years they'll be out on the road again. I would be very surprised if they weren't, because Stevie Nicks is still touring. She's still playing, so it would be.
She's going to do some stadium shows with Billy Joel.
Yep, and he'll definitely have. I'm trying to. Be interested to see what he brings her out, because he'll definitely bring her out for a song. I mean, a song or two for sure. So I'd be curious to see if they do, Leather and Lace, or if they do Stop Dragging My Heart Around. They could imagine Billy Joel and Stevie Nicks doing Insider. That'd be a weird one.
It would be weird, but I would like it. Stop Dragging My Heart Around would be really cool, though.
Yeah,
that seems like a natural.
He could do that one. That's a little bit more up tempo. I think he'd probably do a better job of that one. So
yeah, and his band is phenomenal. So they could do anything and kill it. They jump from AC/DC to Def Leppard to like whoever just happens to be in town that night. They bring on stage and they do one of their tracks. So it's pretty cool what Billy Joel's doing right now.
You got to be a really good musician to be in Billy Joel's band, because he's an absolute asshole if you're not, from what I've read. So.
That doesn't surprise me.
Okay, do you have a favorite band member other than Tom? If Tom is your favorite band member, which I always assume he is.
And he would be, but and I was thinking about it, they all have their qualities, right? Like, and they all contribute something a little different, but I got to go with Mike Campbell. Like, he's such an instrumental, pardon the pun, member of the Heartbreakers. Like even Tom solo stuff. Like Tom told him after, Mudcrutch kind of fell apart when they didn't want to bring the whole band aboard. He's like, Mike, don't leave me. Like I need you. I want to be playing music with this guy for the rest of my life. And he did. Yeah. And Mike Campbell is so good and so underrated, I think, as a guitar player. Like one of the greatest rock guitarists of all time. Like 100%. He doesn't do all the flashy stuff like an Eddie Van Halen, but his contributions just, they can't be ignored. He's an instrument, he's a vital part of the sound of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Well, you guys talk about this lots on the Van Halen podcast about, Eddie's quite often at his best when he's playing for the song, and he can melt your face anytime he wants to. He can play a million notes where one would do, but those solos where he plays are really tuneful, meaningful. I'm thinking like right now, the soloing right now wouldn't be on most Van Halen fans, list of top 5, top 10 Eddie Van Halen guitar solos. But for me, that's, or 5150, let's say, something like that, where it's so melodic and it just fits exactly what the song needs. And that's what Mike Campbell was just peerless at, right? It was finding exactly the right notes to play and the right notes not to play. So,
yeah, couldn't agree more. So got to go with Mike Campbell, even though a close second might be Howie, just because you forget, like, when they added that voice to the records, it just elevated the whole thing, right?
Yeah. Okay, if you could go to see any Tom Petty concert from history, is the one that you would go to, and why?
Well, you know what? I thought a lot about this, and I'm going to kind of cheat a little bit too, and I'm going with Super Bowl 42 because I'm a huge NFL fan. Yeah. I'm a huge New York Giants fan, and that's the year they knocked off the undefeated New England Patriots 17-14. But Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers were the halftime act and killed it. And the fact that they're not mentioned in the conversation of the greatest halftime acts of all time really chaps my ass, because they were amazing that night.
Yeah, it was. I think, because most, or certainly a lot of halftime acts are lip synced, right? Because the network gets very nervous about, if something goes wrong, are we going to lose this? If we lose the broadcast, that's going to really, really suck. But Prince, you can't tell Prince or Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers to lip sync or to mime. That's just not going to wash, right? It's not going to happen.
Bruce Springsteen as well, yeah.
But
even just the production. Remember that they had that heart, boom, 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 boom on the stage, and then you saw the flying V coming in. Yeah, the flying V came in, and then once it pierced the heart, fireworks go off, and they're playing American Girl. They just kick right into it. It's like, oh, that's so good.
I genuinely, thinking about that, the mental picture of that, all the hairs on the back of my neck stood up, just remembering when you see the lights, and it's like, fucking, that's theater, right? That's going beyond just the music. Now this is theater as well. So
yeah, and then they did a American Girl, I Won't Back Down, Free Falling, and Running Down a Dream. Like, just a perfect 4-song set. 20-minute halftime. Perfect. Yep.
Get it. You understand the brief. That's the band that's understood the brief. It's like Queen live at Live Aid, right? Everyone. That's what Bob Geldof said. He said they understood. They understood what we were trying to get. All right, number 7, Walls Circus, or Walls number 3. And the way I wrote this question originally was, which is the better version? But that's not right. It's which is your preferred version? Which you usually go for?
Right, because they're both great. And but I always go Walls number 3. I like kind of the stripped down version, a little slower tempo. Yeah. Walls Circus to me always kind of sounded a little overproduced. That's kind of the wrong word, but there's a lot of elements in there, right? Yeah. And I always liked it better, just kind of pared back. And my favorite version, like you said in that PBS show, just pared down Tom with an acoustic. Yeah. Sing. It's such a beautiful song. It's so incredibly well written. Lyrically, it's perfect. Absolute note perfect. So, geez, I go with Walls number 3, but I do love Walls Circus as well.
And again, I always talk about, when I'm talking to other people, well, why do you love Tom Petty so much? What are the things you love about him? And one of the things I love about him is he was a master of economy. That's such a simple song. There's not much going on in that. In that version, certainly, there's not a lot going on in that song. It's very simple chord progression, very straight drum beat. He's not modulating his voice a ton, but the impact of the words and the way it's got so much space in it to breathe is why it's impactful, right? And why it sort of lands with you. And of course, when you've got that opening line, some days are diamonds, some days are rocks, straight away, you almost don't need anything else. You could sing that and then just 4 minutes of music and you probably get away with it. It's so strong, right?
And even just I Can't Hold Out Forever, Even Walls Fall Down. Like, such an impactful lyric that everybody, that's kind of the human experience. Everybody's felt that. And that's where you get that feeling that, Tom Petty's singing for me. He's singing about me. That's what he did.
When he had that knack, I talk about this all the time, is, even if he was writing about something that was very personal and was actually going on in his life, and Night Watchman was a good example of that, because he had these conversations with the guy who was doing security in his home, or, Walk Back Down, those kinds of things. He still always managed to write them in such a way that you could put yourself in the song and you could look at it from your perspective. So it means something to everyone in whatever way you want it to mean to you. He was very, very good at that. And it wasn't accidental. That was definitely a thoughtful thing where probably would say, well, I probably need to change that line because that's a bit too specific. So I'll change that and make it a bit more abstract. It's just phenomenal. Really hard to do too.
Oh, incredibly hard to do. And he pulled it off so easy. And I remember him talking about how he hated how listening to people how they talk about writing songs. And he's
Yeah.
like, it's not that easy. It's not, it wasn't for him anyway. He said, he'd latch onto an idea and you try something on, like, okay, let's move this around, and okay, I'm gonna have to ditch that part and to make it all fit. He worked at it. It was a real craft to him. And where some guys are just like, I belch this thing out in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And usually it sucks. Unless you're Freddie Mercury and you're in the bathtub and you write Crazy Little Thing Called Love.
Well, Straight Into Darkness is a good example of that. When he in Paul Zollo's book, he says that they couldn't quite get the handle on that one about how did, they knew the song was good, and they knew the lyrics were strong, and they knew everything else, but they couldn't quite figure it out. They said it was when they went over and they had Benmont play that opening piano lick. So that's when the song came to life. That's when it's, okay, now I know what the song is. Now I know where we need to take it. So it's those little things that songwriters need sometimes just to get them over the line, right?
Especially when you're in a band, not a backing band. They were a band, and everybody contributed, and everybody was instrumental in Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Yeah, and if you've got Ben Montench sitting there, use him. The guy's a god. The guy's a god. Use Ben Montench. Okay. Next question. I started sending these to people, and I sent these to you ahead of time, Corey, but I'm actually going to throw you a little curveball at the end of this one too. So I'm going to ask you the question, then I'm going to add you a supplemental question. But okay. So if you could pick any artist to cover any Tom Petty song, which artist would you pick, and what song would they cover?
Well, I was thinking I do a Van Halen podcast, so I should probably pick Van Halen. And I was thinking, what song could Van Halen absolutely kill? And I always came back to Running Down a Dream, because I love that solo in Running Down a Dream. But imagine Eddie Van Halen flourishes on that solo. And I know, like, the drumming on the studio version is very kind of straight ahead, but Alex will throw something funky in during Eddie's solo on that, little something with the cymbals, or something with the hi-hat maybe, just to kind of accent it.
Just that little offbeat, in those couple of little offbeat sections. Yeah, oh man, that's a great shout, man. That's a great shout, and you've kind of actually you've got ahead of me, because that was what I was going to ask you. Because I was thinking, if you pick someone else, I was like, well, what about Van Halen? So I've got another one up my sleeve though. What about Aerosmith? If Aerosmith covered a Tom Petty song, which one would you go with?
Geez, you got to go with something. Just thinking back to Long After Dark, Change of Heart. I think is a song I think they could do quite well. That'd
be great. Yeah, it's got that Joe Perry. It's got that bluesy kind of chunky kind of riff to it. So
because they're very much a blues-based band. You could pull a song out of the hat from Mojo. And I think Aerosmith could probably do that pretty well too. But just off the top of my head, we're talking about Long After Dark, and I think that's an album. I think early Aerosmith, especially, I think they could cover any one of those songs and do a pretty good job of it.
Man, I love that. We could do that. Maybe we could get Wolf into sort of and get him Run Down a Dream by Van Halen. That would be spectacular.
Wouldn't that be something?
That would be something else. Yeah. No, okay.
Now, which vocalist is that? What you're going to ask?
That's what I was going to ask you. Which vocalist? Yeah.
So I was sitting there thinking, who would fucking sing it, right?
Well, obviously Gary Sharon.
Obviously. No, Daryl Hall. I waited for you to get a swig of your beer before I said Daryl Hall, the unofficial lead singer of Van Halen, there for a bit. But you know what, Sammy or Dave, I think would do a good job of it. It's not Tom Petty songs I don't think are all that challenging to sing. He obviously has one of the most distinctive voices in rock that makes it brilliant, and the little inflections he talks about. I remember listening to your show on I think it was American Girl, just the way he accentuated balcony, like little things like that, right? So I would probably lean more towards Sammy doing that one, but I think Dave would do an all right version of it too.
I wonder if Sammy's ever covered a Tom Petty song, because he does a lot of covers with Chicken Foot and with his Cabo Wabo parties. That'd be interesting to go back and see if we can find out, because I'd be kind of somewhat surprised if he hadn't at some point.
Especially during the Cabo Wabo parties, like you said. Like, those are just big jam sessions, right? Like, and everybody loves and respects Tom Petty. They had to have at some point.
Yeah, I'm gonna dig into that. Okay, so is there a song that you most frequently recommend to people who don't know Tom's music? If someone says, okay, well, I don't really know anything about, maybe I know American Girl, what's the song that you would throw at them to say, well, this is where I would start?
It's I Won't Back Down. That's my favorite Tom Petty song. It's my favorite song.
Yeah,
I love everything about it's a perfect song. It's played perfectly, it's sung perfectly, it's got tremendous lyrics. Whenever it comes up on shuffle, I never skip it. And I'll skip the occasional Van Halen song, Running with the Devil. If I've heard that 100 times in the past, I'll give that a skip. And that's one of my all-time favorite bands. I never ever skip I Won't Back Down. I remember I went to a UFC event in Las Vegas, and Chris Weidman was fighting in the co-main event, and that was his walkout song. And when that hit, the whole place kind of erupted.
Yeah.
And just to hear that in that environment was so cool. Johnny Cash's version is brilliant. The stripped down acoustic version is brilliant. I will still, whenever it pops up on shuffle, I will sing it at the top of my lungs, especially, and I will well up whenever he sings, "You can stand me up at the gates of hell, but I won't back down." That is just fucking brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. And when the University of Florida and the Gators, when they come out, then they play that at I think it's the halftime or something when they play, and you get this stadium of 90,000 people all singing it. It gets me, right? You know, when you get that sort of thing where your breath hitches a little bit, it just really makes me really emotional in a good way. It's a happy emotion, but it makes me very emotional. It's like, fuck it. And it's a song that's meant to be sung by a throng of people, you know, because it is. And it's like this, what I was saying earlier, though, it's very deeply personal. It's a very personal song, but look how it connects with people.
Yeah. Well, and Todd even said, like, you know, he debated whether it was too personal, if he should like dial it back in a couple of parts, but like you said, it's personal for everybody. When Johnny Cash sang that song, it was personal to him. Yeah. And you could tell the way he sang that, right? When I hear that song, it's personal to me and experiences I had in my life. And it's an anthem for everybody. And that's what I love about it.
Okay. So describe Tom Petty in 3 words.
That is hard because there's a lot of words, right? So I was trying to distill it down. What are the 3 words? First is songwriter, because I think Tom Petty's the perfect songwriter. And that's when I think of Tom Petty, that's the first word that comes to mind. He is just the epitome of a songwriter. It's so good. Second word, I'm stealing from Dave Grohl because it fits so well. But when he was talking about Tom Petty, just like everything about him is so badass. This song is badass. Tom Petty's just a badass, and he's a badass. Who the hell stands up to their record company to get their publishing back and declares bankruptcy and like calls their bluff to the point where like, this kid's not backing down. Got his catalog back, got his own, you know, imprint label and all that kind of stuff. Like, that is badass. The guy was a fucking badass. And 3, icon, because he's surpassed legendary. In my mind, icon is like, if there was a Mount Rushmore of rock and roll, Tom Petty's mug is right on that fucker. He is an absolute icon in music. He's one of my musical heroes that I just love dearly. And I'm so thankful you're doing this show and I can go back and listen to the back catalog along with you, because you're a fantastic guy and I love listening to you talk Tom Petty. And I'm so thankful you invited me on here tonight.